Well, yesterday, the world's most wanted terrorist, Ayman al-Zawahiri, the leader of Al-Qaeda with $25 million of bounty on his head, was killed in a drone strike in Kabul in Afghanistan. 21 years after the devastating events of 9/11, 11 years after the death of Osama bin Laden, this was the second in command behind the attack on the Twin Towers. After 2 decades of evading capture, al-Zawahiri was located. In the end, all it took was for him to step out alone onto the balcony of a home in suburban Kabul when 2 Hellfire missiles in a carefully planned drone attack took him out. Here was the President Joe Biden declaring victory against terrorism in a speech from the White House.
Now, justice has been delivered, and this terrorist leader is no more.
Joining me now to discuss this, retired Australian Army Major General Mick Ryan. Tripping over myself there, Mick. Thank you for coming on the show. Give us a sense of how important it was to get al-Zawahiri here, to take him out. How significant was he still within Al-Qaeda?
Well, g'day, Peter. It's good to talk to you. Zawahiri was a planner not just for the 9/11 attacks that killed thousands of Americans, but also for the attacks on the embassies of the United States in Kenya and Tanzania in the 90s, which resulted in deaths of hundreds of African citizens. So, this guy was a criminal. He was a member and head of Al-Qaeda, and the United States were well justified in going after him and killing him.
Can you give my viewers an insight into the complexity of a mission like this to take him out in an urban setting like it was in Kabul? I mean, how do you find him? How do you authorise a mission like this? No mean feat.
No, it's not, and it just shows how good some of the intelligence services are at finding people they need to find who are our enemies. They've been looking for him for decades, literally. But I think the US probably thought that once the withdrawal last August had been completed, that Al-Qaeda would probably return to Afghanistan, even though the Taliban had signed the Doha Agreement to prevent that. So the CIA and other intelligence services have used human and intelligence means to find him. They've done it, and they've taken him out in a very precise and discriminate manner.
It shows how important drones will be to defence going forward, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly does. I mean, they're already important. They're going to gain in importance if we want to generate the mass Australian Defence Force in particular that we're going to need to address the challenges in the next few years.
On that point, let's go to the review announced by the Prime Minister today in Canberra. What's your take on the review? Do we need it? What should its focus be? Do you share any of the concerns of Andrew Hastie that it shouldn't be used as any sort of cover for gutting defence?
Well, I think it's a very timely review. The world has changed again since the last review came out in 2020. It's a recognition that the rapid pace of change necessitates frequent, quick looks at the priorities for our procurement, for our personnel and for our posture. So I think it's welcome and necessary. And some of the priorities will certainly be around spending. I don't see that this government really feels that it can get away with gutting defence. I don't think that's on the table here. It really will be about the magnitude of increase and the priorities for spending in the next couple of years.
I want to go to Ukraine, but just on the China issue, we've got Pelosi obviously in Taiwan. I think the world is absolutely waking up to China. But have we woken up early enough?
Well, I think we have, Peter. I think the last 2 years, China has behaved abysmally in the international environment. Its response to the calls for the COVID investigation, its very aggressive, coercive activities against many countries, including our own, and its many attempts to interfere with our internal political processes. The world has woken up. Lowy Institute polls have shown that Australians now see China for what it is. It's now up to defence and our broader national security community to make sure we've tailored the right approach to defend our sovereignty and our prosperity over the coming years.
Right, let's go to Ukraine. Russia's hasn't gone away. They're pushing very hard for another assault in the southern region of Ukraine. Ukrainians, look, they've done better than anyone in the world, I think, thought they would. They've been fighting hard since February. They're not interested in giving up. Where does this go to now?
Well, predicting outcomes are more or always perilous, Peter. But, I mean, the Russians are really struggling with their operations in the east. Indeed, they've had to move troops from the east to the south to reinforce their positions there. The Ukrainian counterattacks, certainly around Kherson, making ground. They have for about 6 weeks now, and are putting the Ukrainians in a position where they could launch a larger counteroffensive across the south in either Kherson or Zaporizhzhia provinces, depending on where the Russians are at their weakest.
I'll leave it there. Retired General Mick Ryan, thank you for your time.